What is up, guys? This is Nick. We are back, and we've got some Giannis news today. He's going to sit down with the team and discuss his future. Um, we're going to go over trade stuff today, but I do believe it could just be a sit down to talk about, hey, I'm not going to come back, so if you want to trade me now, if you want to trade me next summer, that's fine. It also could be that he goes, hey, I don't like the direction of where the team is. There are, and we can look through it. They do have some tradable contracts. Um, and so it's always an option of maybe they trade someone. Um, they have the Kuzma contract. They have the Bobby Portis, which is available to be traded December 15th. A lot of their roster, you won't see a lot of this happen until December 15th because their roster is all recently signed. So I just don't think they're going to trade a lot of them. I'm just going to put the Pistons in here for a simple purpose here. I think there's a couple players they don't want to trade. Like, I don't think they're trading Ryan Rollins. He's probably been the second best player on their team. Um, if they don't trade Giannis, they're not trading the Antetokounmpos. I just don't think they're trading Cole Anthony because of the salary, and he's been fairly decent. I don't think they trade AJ Green because of the salary. They probably don't trade Gary Trent because of the salary, and they probably don't trade Kevin Porter Jr. because of the salary. So then you're looking at like Miles Turner, who's recently signed. I just don't think they're trading him. So then it comes down to like you can trade Kuzma, you can trade Bobby Portis, you can probably trade Torian Prince because he really doesn't play. They kind of need Jericho Sims in his salary, but they don't have a whole lot of salary fillers. Their options are pretty much Portis and Kuzma, and then in terms of picks, they can trade their 2031 first or their 2032 first. Um, Actually, they can trade the swap rights on the 2027 because they have their 2028. So they could trade two first round picks. We'll just say these right here. So their assets are looking like this: Kuzma, Bobby Portis, 2027 first round pick, and a 2031 first round pick. I believe that's all they can trade because of the Stepien rule. Um, Someone can tell me if I'm an idiot, but I think that's the correct amount that they can trade. But you're looking at Kuzma's $22.4 million dollars, and you're looking at Bobby Portis's 13.4. But in terms of like bad teams that they could actually trade for someone, I don't. They're not trading for LaMelo Ball, which is probably the only tradable asset on here. Maybe Colin Sexton, but is Colin Sexton for Kyle Kuzma really an upgrade? No. Um, the Nets, you're there's not a whole lot to trade for here. You could trade for Cam Thomas, I guess. Um, I'm not sure that's an upgrade. Trading for Michael Porter Jr. I don't think really helps them, even though Michael Porter Jr. has been okay this year. The Pacers aren't trading anyone, I don't think. Really, their only tradable person is like Nemhard or Toppin. The Wizards are semi-interesting, but I don't think trading Bobby Portis and Kyle Kuzma for C.J. McCollum is anything. They're not trading for Chris Middleton back. Um, so I don't think the Wizards really have any tradable assets for them. The Pelicans, I don't really think Jordan Poole helps you. The Pelicans don't really have a reason to tank because they traded their pick swap to the to the Hawks. So I don't they don't have a reason. Like I would make an argument that Kuzma and Bobby Portis for Dejounte Murray is maybe an upgrade, but they don't have a reason to trade Dejounte Murray and tank because they don't have their first round pick because they traded it for Derek Queen. Um, the only viable argument that I could have here is that they trade Dejounte Murray for Portis and Kuzma for. Does this work salary wise? No. They're over. The Pelicans are over the salary cap. Can they do it with like Kuzma and some? Hold on, I'm just curious. Can they do it with like Kuzma, Torian Prince, and like an Amir Coffee? Does this get it done? It is. They could actually do it without trading Bobby Portis. Obviously, they'd have to throw in those picks, but that's interesting. the only reason I could see the Pelicans doing that is if they want to get to see more minutes for Jeremiah Fears, who has been decent this year. But that would be really the only reason. But then they would be playing. I mean, they could play Fears at the one and then Jose Alvarado off the bench. That's at least interesting. Um, Potential Dejounte Murray trade. I think Murray is on track to come back sometime in January. So, at least that's at least a trade that kind of makes sense. This trade was floated around. It's James Harden to the Bucks. Didn't actually expect to do this portion of it, but I think if you package Bobby Portis, Kyle Kuzma, and like I don't know, throw in Gary Harris, I think this gets it done salary wise. Yeah, it gets it done salary wise. So you could trade James Harden. I don't really know. I think it probably makes him better this year. Like I think this year's version of James Harden is better than Kuzma and Portis, but like overall, does it make him a whole lot better? Not really. But that's an option. I still think the Kings should do something. I they're terrible. And Russell Westbrook is their best player. So like I don't know if there's probably some way like I think DeMar DeRozan is an upgrade over Kyle Kuzma right now. The problem is Kuzma doesn't shoot the ball very well, or DeRozan doesn't shoot the ball very well. So it's kind of like how clogged are you going to clog the paint? It's almost going to force Miles Turner to never be in the paint. But I don't know what do you do if you like they refuse to play Keon Ellis. So what if they do like Russ, DeMar, Keon, and they refuse to play Devin Carter too. But what if they just do? I mean, you could swap. Hmm. I think they could probably get more from Malik Monk than this, but does this work salary wise if they traded out Kuzma and Portis for Monk and DeRozan? What if they give up? So we'll match it player for player. Gary Harris. Let's just throw in Torian Prince. Just see. Does this work salary wise? It does. It does work salary wise. I don't know if that really helps the Bucks, but it gets them more shooting in Monk, defensing shooting in Keon Ellis, a backup point guard who's been the best player on the Kings this year, and Russ. I don't really think they have to trade for Russ. Like you could take Russ out of here, and then take like Torian Prince out of here. Um, I just think the Kings probably should trade Russ and get some value for him. There's probably some teams that would take Russ. Um, I mean, to be honest, the Nuggets should take Russ back, but um, I think Monk, Keon Ellis, and DeRozan are better than Gary Harris, Portis, and Kuzma, but I don't know. I think they should, but like, does a 2020? Do you have to trade just a first? Like DeRozan's old. I mean, he's 36. Like, I don't know how much like assetable value he really is, but that's an option. Is that they trade with the Kings, and then I guess you could talk about the Mavericks, but Klay Thompson is bad, and I don't really think Kyrie is saving them. Though it is, I think this works salary wise. The Mavericks probably should blow it up and get picks. But that's a hard thing to swallow. Does this work salary wise for Kyrie? It should. Yeah, it works salary wise for Kyrie. So the Bucks could trade for Kyrie, but I do in fact think they could get a better trade than Bobby Portis, Kuzma, and two picks for Kyrie. They could probably get some assets, but that's an interesting one. I don't think the Jazz really have. I mean, the Jazz have Markkanen, but they don't have the salary to get to Markkanen, so it's not going to be the Jazz. And then I really don't think. I think they could get there salary wise for Ja Morant, but like the Grizzlies, I don't know why they would want Kuzma and Portis, because like I think Kuzma's probably a negative asset. There's nothing here. You could trade with the Warriors for Kaminga, but what are you giving up picks for Kaminga? I just think that's stupid. The Suns are decent, so like I could make an argument that they could trade for Dylan Brooks, but the Suns have actually been fairly decent, so I don't think the Suns are going to go like I don't think they're going to blow it up for picks. Like they've been, they're the 7th seed in the West, so I just don't think it's going to happen. But that's I wasted 10 minutes talking about trades where the Bucks could trade out Kuzma and Portis and get people back. But moving on to the actual Giannis trades of the video, we'll start out. The Knicks are the most rumored team currently, and there's two constructions for this. You can throw in for the Knicks, you can throw in whatever um, young contract players you want. Ariel Hukporti, Diawara, um, Dadier, Miles McBride. They have a few options, not a ton, but you could throw those guys in if you want. Tyler Kolek, you could throw them in. I just, for the sake of making this, OG Anunoby and Josh Hart's salaries together are enough to make the trade go through, and then their 2026 first, which I believe they're able to trade, and then all of their second round picks. I mean, it's just not a very good. It's just not a very appealing thing. Like, even if you throw in, none of these young guys are very big, but I think that's all they can trade because they have their 2026, 2028, 30, 32, and then, yeah. So, like, Steppy and Roy, I don't think they can trade. They already, like, pick swapped them, too. So, that's the problem with the Knicks trades, is that I just don't think they give a whole lot of, like, do the Bucks care about OG Anunoby? Maybe, but he's 28. Josh Hart is 30. I just don't really think they care about that. That's going to be the trade floated so that the Knicks can have Giannis, Cat, and Brunson. But I find it really hard to believe the Bucks would be interested in this. This is a little bit more interesting. Like with Cat, at least you'd have someone to build around. But Cat's not exactly like young. He's not old, but he's 30, so it's not exactly like you're getting any younger. You're still, I mean, he's still on like the same timeline as Giannis. So like, I don't really see the Knicks trade. Like unless Giannis is like, hey, I'm not resigning, send me to the Knicks. Or I just don't even think Giannis is the type of player that's gonna make it like horrible for the Bucks. Like I feel like if the Bucks don't get something respectable, Giannis will just play out his contract and leave in 2027. So like, I don't know. The Knicks are the most talked about team, but I just don't see it. I really just don't see the value in their trade. So that's just me. Moving on, the Thunder actually can make this happen without trading any like quality people. They can do it with trading Isaiah Hartenstein, Lou Dort, some filler like young guy contracts, and then two first round picks. You can throw in as many first round picks for the Thunder as you want. I don't really think they'll do it, but obviously they have a million first round picks. You can do that however you want. They have a million second round picks. You can throw in whoever, whenever, whatever. They have trade exceptions, but actually, do they? No, they just have the regular exceptions. I thought that was going to show me a trade exception, but you can throw in AJ Mitchell. They could try to capitalize on that. He's only 23 years old. They could. I don't think they'd be interested in these guys. Maybe a Jalen Williams. He's only 23. Maybe a Cason Wallace at 22. Thomas Sorber's only 19. Maybe they'd be interested in those guys as well instead of like a Topic who's out for the year. Ujman Jang. I mean, it just depends. But they can do this without trading. I think they would rather trade Lou Dort because Dort's going to need a new contract. I don't know if he'll make this much, but he'll need a new contract in 2 years, where they could, in fact, just keep Wiggins and Isaiah Joe and have the cheaper contracts. They clearly could get there pick wise. Their team would be insanely expensive next year. They'd be in like the hell of caps, but I was gonna put Caruso in over Lou Dort, but I think Lou Dort is a better asset. Like I think the Bucks would rather. It's not always about like, ooh, let me get rid of Caruso because I would rather have Lou Dort on my team. Well, that's what the Bucks probably would think. I mean, Lou Dort's 5 years younger and has a shorter contract. So I I just think the Thunder would get stuck with Alex Caruso. Though I think at some point here they're gonna have to trade Alex Caruso. Um, just with their salary cap going up, I just think at some point Caruso is gonna be a salary cap casualty. But that's just me. But yeah, they can get this done without trading like anyone that makes their team be superstars. I mean, Zhang doesn't play, Topic isn't playing. Lou Dort would be a bad loss, and Hartenstein. But I mean, Giannis is better than Hartenstein, and he can, I mean, not do what Hartenstein does, but you know what I mean. Like on that team, he's probably going to play. Giannis would play the center. They would roll out a lineup of with what's left. What would they roll out a lineup of? Shea. They gonna play J Dub at the two in this scenario? I bet they play. I bet they would roll out Shea at the one, Caruso at the two, J Dub at the three, Chet at the four, Giannis at the five. Probably is how they would roll that out. Um, and then probably Chet and Caruso would be the first two off the floor, and they could play. They could put in Isaiah Joe and Wiggins, play small with Jade up at the four or whatever. But yeah, that's the Thunder trade. I don't really think the Thunder have any incentive to do this. They're clearly the best team in the NBA, and it's not close. Maybe adding Giannis would make them crazy, but you never know when you add some of these superstars. It's never just like, oh, it's an on, they're real life humans. It's not a video game, so Giannis might not just be a fit, or Shea slash Giannis could not mesh together type thing. So don't think the Thunder are going to do it. Next is the Rockets. There's two Rockets configurations for this. Right? Oh no, there's the one Rockets configuration for this. It's like Fred VanVleet, Dorian Finney-Smith, Reed Shepard, Tari Eason, and some picks. Or you can sub out Dorian Finney-Smith for you can sub him out for Jabari Smith Jr., however you want to do it. I'm pretty sure if the Bucks called the Rockets are gonna they don't want to trade obviously KD, Sengun, Amin Thompson, and Steven Adams. I think that's probably the four they take off the table. They just like Steven Adams a lot. Um, and I don't know why the Bucks would want Steven Adams, so that kind of helps that whole scenario. The Rockets want to keep Steven Adams, and the Bucks probably don't want Steven Adams, so that makes it easy. You could make the argument that Dorian Finney-Smith needs to be out and Jabari Smith Jr. needs to be in, but I don't know. I feel like the Rockets would give up an extra pick to keep Jabari Smith, but maybe that's just me. The problem for the Rockets is they do have no point guard then, but I guess you're going to keep rolling out Amen Thompson at the point guard and hope that works. I don't know how you play this. They would, I mean, the logical answer for them is to play Amen Thompson at the point and then sign like Chris Paul out of, I mean, or trade for Russ hurts them because he doesn't space. But like find a cheap point guard. Like trade. They have assets. Like can they do something here and trade like Aaron Holiday or Jayshawn Tate or Josh Kogi, Jeff Green, Clint, like someone here? Can we trade them for like a point guard? Like, but this is the trade for the Rockets. I think the Rockets would hold firm at this, which lets other teams get into it. Next, we have the Spurs. There are two real configurations for the Spurs, but I think this is the most realistic. Is some combination of Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, or Keldon Johnson. I would guess they'd want to hold one of those wings, which is why I have Harrison Barnes in there. I do get that the Bucks would rather have Keldon Johnson, but once again with the Spurs, they have enough assets. I think they could add it in to make the Bucks take Barnes over taking Keldon Johnson. There's a configuration of this where you would do it with De'Aaron Fox, but I really think they need De'Aaron Fox. They have a pretty sick three guard rotation with Castle, Fox, and Dylan Harper. I just don't think they're trading Dylan Harper either. I could make the argument that you should trade De'Aaron Fox because you have those two guards, but I have a feeling with Giannis speeding up their timeline, they would because they'd be needing to win sooner. So like I think they'd want De'Aaron Fox, which obviously kind of hurts the development of Dylan Harper, but yeah, I think they would roll with some sort of combo of De'Aaron Fox at the one, Stefan Castle at the two, um, Keldon Johnson at the three, Giannis at the four, Wemby at the five, and then Wemby would play a little more outside, Giannis would play inside, type of thing. But yeah, that's the Spurs makeup. I did a Heat trade because, as a Heat fan, I have become very accustomed to the fact that they're in every trade rumor. I think they have an appetizing little offer, but it would have to require some of these other teams to just not be interested, or Giannis to be like, "Hey, I want to go to the Heat." Um, they do have the contract of Terry Rozier for whatever that's worth. It is here. Um, I played around with it for a little bit, but I would assume the Heat. I mean, clearly no one wants Tyler Hero. They couldn't trade him when they were trying to get Dame, and then they didn't want to trade him for Kevin Durant, and so I don't know. They haven't wanted to trade Kalo Ware. They haven't wanted to trade Jovic. Ware has actually been good this year. Jovic has been awful. But this weird conglomeration of a trade, because I think they're getting some sort of an exception. I really don't know what they're getting with this because the math doesn't math out for them to just be able to plug Giannis in for this contract, but it works in the trade finder. So I'm not entirely sure if they're getting a like salary cap relief, and so they because I don't know if they're getting a salary cap relief off of Terry Rozier's contract or what they're doing there, but I mean they get some young players back. They get Jovic, they get Kalo Ware, they get Kasparis Yakachonis, they get Pella Larson, they get four young guys. Simone Fontecchio is in there for the money, and then they get Andrew Wiggins, which Wiggs is not old. He's not young, but he's 30. So like you could flip him to another team, you could do whatever you want, but um, would be interesting for the Heat. They could roll out an interesting lineup as Davion Mitchell at the one, Hero at the two, Jaquez. I mean, you could trade Jaquez, but I think Jaquez probably has the least amount of value just because, eh, he probably has more value than Pella Larson. So you could throw Jaquez in there, take out Pella Larson. But the Heat would have to roll out some sort of like. I think they'd play Norman Powell at the three. So they'd roll out Davion Mitchell, Hero, Norman Powell, Giannis, Bam, however you want to do that. Then they would have Drew Smith off the bench, one of Larson and Jaquez. They'd have to go sign some guys. Like they'd be a good Chris Paul buyout. It's not even a buyout. I don't. Chris Paul's on like the minimum, but like they'd be a good Chris Paul spot if they did a trade like this because they're trading six players out. They could obviously take guys back, but I don't know who like here would have like they'd probably have to they'd probably take Thanasis like clap on the bench. I would guess they'd want out of the Gary Harris like deal, so like maybe the Heat would take on Gary Harris, but yeah, that's a Heat trade for Giannis. I don't think it's gonna happen. I would love it as a Heat fan, but don't think it's very possible. Then we have the Pistons, who can get this done with Tobias Harris, Isaiah Stewart, Jaden Ivey, Marcus Sasser, Bobby Clintman, and a couple of firsts. Um, I honestly would do this. It really tears up their depth, but they hold on to the key core of their team, like what makes them actually really good. I still can't believe they gave Duncan Robinson this contract, but you could take like I think the Bucks would want like Jaden Ivey, so like I don't think you can take him out. You could do a weird construction where they keep Tobias Harris and they trade Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson, but I don't think they're doing that. But you get to keep Asar Thompson, you get to keep Ron Holland, you get to keep Jalen Duren. You have B-Ball Paul to replace Isaiah Stewart, so like you've got a little bit of that stuff going on, but I don't really think they'll do it, but the Pistons could get it done. Moving on, then we have the Hawks. This is gonna be the this is gonna be the more popular way to do this trade is with Jalen Johnson, Reese Shea, Luke Kennard, and some picks. They do have the Pelicans first round pick. I didn't put Giannis over here, but this does work. Um, they all show they don't work because Kennard is on the recently signed thing for December 15th. But this is what you can look at. But let me introduce you to adding another pick and doing Kristaps Porzingis instead. Jalen Johnson, obviously the better asset, but I don't think the Hawks want to give up Jalen Johnson. Like Jalen Johnson is 23 years old and playing just elite basketball this year. I just don't think they want to give him up. I think they'd rather roll out, the lineup of Trey Young, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Giannis, and Aneka Okongwu than rolling out a lineup with Kristaps Porzingis or Porzingis off the bench. Like that's just weird, and I just don't think they would want to roll it out like that. So it makes more sense. Maybe they have to add in two more picks for them to take because they're losing an asset, and Porzingis is maybe a negative, but or maybe they reroute Porzingis to a third team. However you want to look at it, but I think it's the better, more logical thing for the Hawks to do is to you know force in. They do have some picks. I think they can trade their 2029. Like they could throw a handful of picks in here. So like if I go, so like uh, so in this configuration they would throw in their 2029 and 2031 instead of the one I threw in there. So get rid of their 2030. So like four first round picks, a couple of pick swaps, and then the 2029 and 2020 and 2031. Could also do pick swaps. I don't know exactly how they would want to do that, but yeah, it is it is what it is for the Hawks. Moving on, the Warriors. They do have a route for this, but it involves trading Draymond Green. Don't think they'll do it because I think they have to give up too much. And then when Jimmy Butler and Steph are terrible and or retired, the team is going to be horrible, and Giannis is just going to want to be out again. So I just don't think it works for the Warriors. You can talk about it; it does work. You can make the salaries work, but like if the Warriors traded all this for Giannis, the team after Steph and Jimmy are gone is just going to be awful. You can talk about like trying to bridge the gap, and then like Giannis plays by himself with a new team on the Warriors, but like that new team's going to be horrible. He's not going to want to play with them. Then you've got the Bucks and the Timberwolves. So it's Jaden McDaniels, Nod Reed, Rob Dillingham, and Terrence Shannon Jr. trade. Um, I don't know. It's an interesting trade. I do think that the Timberwolves would have to throw in considerable picks because I think Naz Reid is just a hugely negative asset, like for the Bucks, not like overall in the league, but for the Bucks. So like, I'm not necessarily saying that they would have to throw in a bunch of picks, but at least two, which I don't, do they even have two? Um, they can't trade their 2028. They can't trade their 2030. They don't. They don't even have picks. They could trade a bunch of second round picks, but they don't even have first round picks. Like so I don't even think this works because I don't think the Bucks are going to be very happy with Jaden McDaniels and Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr. as their return for Giannis. Last trade, just a fun one. The Blazers. They could send out Jeremy Grant, Scoot Henderson, Donovan Clingan, and Ryan Rupert with a couple of first round picks. They could give Milwaukee their swap rights back so that if Milwaukee wants to tank, they can. And yeah, they have a logjam at the big spots with Klingon, Hansen Yang, and Rob Williams. So Klingon probably has the best value of the three. That's why I put him in there. Scoot Henderson has been hurt, but I think you could get some value out of him. Good value out of him. Rupert just kind of in there, young player, and then Jeremy Grant is your salary. You could do Drew Holiday, but I think winning purposes, Drew's actually been good this year, and then you reunite Giannis with Drew and Damian Lillard. Um, that I necessarily care about that, but it's a win now move for Portland. But you keep some young guys like Shaden Sharp, you'd keep Hansen Yang, and you keep Denny in this trade. I think the Bucks would want Denny, but I think you could keep one of Denny or Scoot, and I think they would at this point choose Denny. Just kind of crazy to say, but I think they would keep Denny. But yeah, that's gonna do it. That is my trades for Giannis, as well as trades that the Bucks could do to help Giannis. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Drop a like if you did, subscribe if you haven't. I'll try to do this whenever big trades can potentially happen. Like I said, gonna do a bunch of different sports content on here, not just gonna be college football and tennis. So we'll try to talk about stuff like this when I can. So hope you guys enjoyed. Drop a like if you did, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch you guys later.